The Yes Project builds on our Grad Nation campaign and the understanding that education and employment go hand in hand in success for a young person's life, and that it will take our collective action across all organizations supporting young people to come together to achieve our goals. I'd like to thank our Alliance partners who all worked with us on the Yes Project, and also to AT&T, State Farm, and the Carnegie Corporation for their support of the Yes Project. I'd like to turn it over to Mylena Albright, Assistant Vice President for Corporate Social Responsibility at AT&T, to talk a little bit about their support of the Yes Project and their work at AT&T. Thank you, Mylena.
Thanks, Dennis, and good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here with everyone today. Through the AT&T Aspire initiative, we've supported education for underrepresented and underserved youth since 2008, investing $600 million. As part of our Aspire program, we partnered early on with America's Promise Alliance and the Grad Nation campaign to support their goal of reaching a 90% national high school graduation rate by the class of 2020. In support of this goal, we collaborated with leading organization programs that have demonstrated success in helping students succeed in school and graduate prepared to thrive. As we've evolved and expanded Aspire over the past 12 years, we've increasingly focused on preparing those same young people with the skills they need to succeed in their future career. We recognize that skills gaps are not unique to one industry or one area of expertise. For that reason, AT&T is investing in programs that address the multidimensional nature of today's skills gaps. We're investing to prepare people for career success in all the areas where we focus. So that includes technology, telecommunications, and media making. In the past 5 years, AT&T has contributed $215 million to increase education, skills building, and career readiness opportunities in Black and underserved communities. We remain committed to investing our philanthropy, resources, and expertise to continue to drive tangible and lasting change throughout the communities where we live and work. In July, we announced our commitment of an additional $10 million this year to create economic opportunities and foster upward mobility for Black and underserved communities who face long-standing social inequities and higher unemployment, all of which are exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. We've also seen that as opportunities for college graduates have grown in recent decades, prospects for young adults without post-secondary credentials have steadily declined. With fewer chances at well-paying jobs, many young adults give up on school and withdraw from the labor force. Short spells of withdrawal often lead to long-term disconnection and lifelong disadvantages. This population is defined, as many of you know, as opportunity youth. So these are talented young adults, generally ages 18 through 24, who are seeking work but are under or unemployed. Millions of these talented, motivated young adults across the U.S. lack access to the programs and opportunities that are needed to help get them and keep them in good jobs. We can't expect the best and brightest to just line up at our door when there's so many challenges on their pathway to a career. So at AT&T, we're reaching beyond our doors to strengthen the pipeline of talent feeding AT&T and all of America. This focus on addressing the opportunity gap led AT&T to collaborate with America's Promise Alliance once again on the Yes Project. We are excited to be a part of this effort to ensure that young people are prepared for, being connected to, and feeling supported in the world of work. The report, which we will hear more about today, features learnings and best practices from a number of nonprofits that AT&T has been proud to support, and these include Jobs for America's Graduates, Perscolis, Urban Alliance, Year Up, and Youth Build. These organizations are doing critical work in our communities each and every day to improve opportunities for the incredible young people who will lead us into the future. One such talented person is a young man named Julio. Julio completed a Year Up internship with AT&T in Miami in 2014. After showing a remarkable work ethic and strong performance, he was hired as a full-time employee. He's still with us today. He was recently promoted to team sales manager and leads a team in our South Florida office. And I love it when he says he wants to retire from the company. When asked what Year Up had done for him, he says unequivocally that he wouldn't be where he is today without the program. I know Julio is just one of countless young people whose lives have been changed by programs like Year Up, and efforts like the Yes Project is helping to further those goals and aspirations. Our company and our nation's workforce will benefit immensely from more of these talented individuals being provided the learning experiences, skills, and supports that they need to connect to and succeed in a career. In closing, I'd like to share a personal reflection. As a woman with a similar background to many of the students that America's Promise Alliance and these organizations serve, I truly understand that it takes a holistic approach to address the challenges and inequities that our children face. Education and economic opportunity isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Supporting programs that lead to equitable opportunities is the only way that everyone succeeds. I'm personally proud to represent AT&T as a partner of America's Promise Alliance as we continue the work to help students thrive. And thank you very much. And Dennis, I think it's back to you.
Thank you. I think I'll kick it over to Nathaniel.
Awesome. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Marlena.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Marlena. Dennis, thanks for those opening comments that you shared. Marlena, thank you so much for the story that you shared of Julio. And, you know, that has me thinking maybe I should give more time to my retirement plan. So really love that, and your personal story and just partnership over the years. And a special thanks to each of you, our guests, for joining us today. I'm Nathaniel Cole, and I serve as Senior Director with America's Promise Alliance and have the privilege of leading our Youth Employment Initiative, which you all have heard about, the YES Project. And the YES Project reflects the work and spirit of so many of your organizations and businesses that are represented on the discussion today. The pursuit where every young person who is seeking a job can find a job. It comes down to that at the heart of it. Today, we'll explore key findings, as Marlena shared, from Finding a Way Forward, and how young people view readiness, connectedness, and support in navigating their employment journeys. And so if any of you are asking why readiness, connectedness, and support, well, in 2018, over 20 national organizations and young people came together and identified these components as essential to one's career development journey. Hence, the Ready, Connected, Supported framework was birthed. So I'm excited about two things, and we're about to hop into the presentation. First, my colleague Sean will dive into what led us to this work and what young people view as readiness, connectedness, and support. The second thing that I'm really excited about is our ability to hear and connect with young people and providers directly to understand how these components show up in their day-to-day. And our hope as an organization, as an alliance, is that this conversation advances efforts of your respective organizations and businesses. So folks, over the next hour, we will witness the beautiful intersection of research and practice. It's one thing to outline and discuss what young people need, but it's a whole nother thing when young people affirm, validate, and sign off on their approach. Then, and only then, are we positioned to truly make some strides when we think about youth employment. So with that, I appreciate all of you tuning in, and the next voice you will hear will be that of Sean Flanagan. Sean?
All right, thank you, Nathaniel. Let me just get my slides up here. All right, great. So thank you. My name is Sean Flanagan. I'm the Senior Director of Research with the Center for Promise. The Center for Promise is the Applied Research Institute of America's Promise Alliance in partnership with Boston University. And we focus on building research knowledge around a range of topics related to positive youth development and the conditions that can help young people to thrive in school, work, and life. As others have mentioned, I'm really excited to share with you all today a new report under the banner of the YES Project called Finding a Way Forward, which documents young people's experiences navigating today's world of work. So I encourage you all to, of course, read the report to hear the rich perspectives from young people themselves. But over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'll walk through some of the background, some of our study methods, our findings, and our implications, and then we'll conclude in time to turn things over to our panelists. So at a broad level, the YES project, as well as the research agenda, is really founded on an assumption that work serves a really central role in people's lives, that work is fundamentally linked to our mental and physical health. Work can be an outlet for expressing one's sense of identity, interests, and values, and that work is also a key context for social connection. But at its most basic level, work is a critical means for meeting our economic and our survival needs. We also know that the world of work is changing, and the labor landscape continues to be reshaped by some of these macro level trends, such as globalization, technology, shifts in political and demographic trends, and gaining a firm foothold in the world of work increasingly requires a successful school to work transition as young people complete their education and establish a connection with decent and dignified work and sustainable career pathways to begin constructing their career within our knowledge economy. And with regard to the current moment, we know that COVID has really wreaked havoc on the nation's economy and has decimated what's already a very fragile youth employment landscape. And during the first quarter of 2020, we saw that youth unemployment was as high as 27%. And this picture is magnified for young people from marginalized racial and ethnic groups. And these youth unemployment crisis and disparities in employment outcomes, although they're made worse by the pandemic, they're certainly not unique to the current moment. And what we see from the data is that year after year, youth unemployment remains persistently high within the US, typically more than double the national average for the overall population. And you can see here some of the influences that drive those disproportionate rates. And also the recognition, as Marlena had referenced, around the impact of early unemployment on a young person's long-term career trajectory. And some economists refer to this as sort of a scarring effect in terms of the impact that it can have on later earnings, on future likelihood of unemployment, and a range of social outcomes as well. One of the ways, as Nathaniel mentioned, that the YES project is approaching this problem is to look at readiness, connectedness, and support as levers that can help young people to grow their work lives and their careers. And so as this first phase of the YES project's research agenda, drawing on the YES project's Ready, Connected, and Supported framework, we really wanted to better understand how young people are thinking about work and careers, and in particular, these two questions of how do young people describe what it means to them to become ready, connected, and supported to reach their goals? And also, how do some of these contextual factors, including the barriers that young people encounter and the conditions that can help them cope, how do these things shape their journey toward becoming ready, connected, and supported? And so to answer that, our research team went out into the field and we talked with young people across the country. So through a competitive selection process, we partnered with 5 community-based organizations dedicated to providing workforce development programming for young people ages 16 to 24. And in that process, we sought to identify a diverse collection of programs in terms of the community and participant demographics, the geographic location, and their approaches to programming. And we ultimately landed on the 5 programs that you see here. You're at Baltimore, Iowa Jobs for America's Graduates, Urban Alliance Chicago, Compton Youth Build, and Perscola's Dallas. And as mentioned, several of them are here with us today. And we worked with these research partners to identify and recruit young people to participate in both group and individual interviews that were devoted toward exploring those key research questions that I outlined. You can see here some of the demographics on the right side, that on average participants were about 20 years old. And the sample identified primarily as Black and or Hispanic and Latinx. Slightly more female than male. About 92% of the sample had yet to attain some post-secondary degree. Just about half were currently enrolled in school, either through their program or outside of their program. And about half were employed, primarily part-time. With regard to our group interview format, typically we conduct several relationship building exercises, and in these particular groups, the young people were then read a broad central prompt that really asked them to draw a timeline of their life and their career path. We use this as a priming exercise for considering the various events and experiences and influences on young people's career development to date. And participants were then invited to share with the group about their views on work and careers, what it means to them to be ready, connected, and supported, and really how these concepts have shown up in their lives to date. So you can actually see here at the bottom of the screen some of the drawings that young people completed as a part of those group interviews. All of the interviews were also audio recorded, then transcribed to text, and they were then analyzed by our research team at the Center for Promise. And the data analysis yielded 7 core categories of codes. So you can see portions of 2 of those categories in the table here on the right. And these codes were then further explored and synthesized within the context of young people's career narratives. And we ultimately identified 3 key findings to share as a part of this report. Now, before I share those findings, I want to briefly acknowledge 2 things. One is that young people reference a significant number of barriers, constraints, and adverse life experiences that have shaped their lives and their career paths. You can see here in Nellie and T's dialogue that these themes related to adversity, work-life integration, and the importance of diverse and flexible career pathways really were themes that cut across all of our findings. The second thing that I want to share is that I'm just going to review each of these findings very briefly. They're detailed at length in the report, and I just want to provide just a summary to tee up our panel of program leaders and young people who will speak to each of these concepts from their own experience and much more eloquently than I could. So the first finding that emerged from our group and individual interviews is that young people have an extremely holistic view of readiness, that participants describe that becoming ready really is a complex developmental process that includes acquiring the relevant education and applied experience, building a competitive profile of competencies and skills, but also developing a deep sense of identity that includes both an understanding of oneself as a worker and also where one fits within the world of work, and also the ways that career identity is aligned with one's broader personal and social identities. And then finally, that readiness also requires a sense of adaptability to manage change and challenges along the way. The second key finding that emerged was that young people believe that their connections and the social capital are essential for navigating their career journeys, but they often struggle to build these networks on their own. So throughout their stories, participants described the importance of close connections like family, friends, teachers, but many also reported a lack of access to a wider array of professional networks and relationships that could provide that bridging capital that connects them to new networks and provides entry points or footholds in the world of work that are otherwise inaccessible within their existing networks. So you can see here that Shadow describes how his father provided some of that bridging capital, yet Brock up in the top corner also describes that sort of bridging capital that's available to young people with fewer social and economic advantages may be limited, and that really drives a lot of these disadvantages compared to peers with stronger or weaker ties that can bridge them into these new professional networks more effectively. And then the third finding was just that young people state that the supports that they need are not limited to their work lives, that young people make clear that they don't experience their work lives and their personal lives in these neatly compartmentalized ways. And you can see here from Joy's quote that, she describes that her needs and her role as a mother and as a person don't simply stop when she enters the office, but corporate cultures and institutional practices often ask young people to artificially separate their work from their life. And in order to manage the barriers and demands across their personal and work lives, what we heard from young people is that they're really needing these multidimensional, comprehensive supports that are provided by more than just a single champion, but from really a full web of support that can provide both general developmental supports for their general needs, as well as supports for their more career-specific concerns. And in some, they really issue a call to action for communities and workplaces to treat and support young people as whole people. You can see here just a few additional examples of some of the different types of supports that young people reference throughout their stories, and the roles that some of these supports can play in providing that sort of whole person support. And so bringing some of these things together, I think, the young people whose voices infuse this report offer, I think, a really compelling vision for what it means to become ready, connected, and supported along their career journeys in today's world of work. And I think traditionally, career and workforce development systems and practices have tended to separate skills from identities and work lives from personal lives, and school from work, and individuals from context. And really what we heard from young people is that this doesn't honor the way that young people experience the world. That young people in this report make clear that becoming ready, connected, and supported really involves all aspects of a young person's life and identity. And our belief is that this youth-centered perspective really offers the potential to unify some of these fragmented perspectives and efforts across the field and move us toward a more holistic, interdisciplinary approach to workforce development. And so overall, these findings point toward 5 key implications or takeaways for research, policy, and practice. The first is to adopt a whole person approach to career and workforce development that recognizes all of a young person's unique skills, identities, experiences, strengths, and needs, both as an employee and as a human being. The second is that we need to continue to work to dismantle systemic barriers to career and workforce development, including the racist and classist structures and practices that many of the young people reference as major barriers to their career development. And in doing that, to create more equitable pathways for young people. The third piece is that each young person's process of becoming ready, connected, and supported is unique, as are their life circumstances. And we need to really support diverse pathways that allow for each person to become ready, connected, and supported in their own unique way. With regard to relationships, we need to continue to help young people to leverage the existing connections that they find so valuable, and to continue to develop new ones that can really provide them with a robust web of relationships that provide the social capital and the social support that can help them to advance along their career path. And then the final piece is to continue to encourage an approach to lifelong learning, and to really encourage this as a career mindset as the world of work continues to change, and young people are continually confronted with a need to adapt. This approach to lifelong learning, and not just lifelong learning, but a lifelong approach to building relationships, I think will be a critical aspect of continuing to maintain one's sense of readiness, connection, and support. And I just want to leave you all with one quote here, as Brock and Jason share that, what we heard resoundingly from the young people in this study is that young people want their worth to be recognized, and they want to be supported. They want their contributions to make a difference for their families and for their communities. And, we need to continue to work on behalf of young people to create the sorts of opportunities and institutions, and to really create a world of work that that young people deserve. And if we can succeed at that, the world of work will be much better for having some of these young people in it. With that, I just want to extend our appreciation to all of you for the interest in this research. We hope that you read the report. Most of all, we want to extend our deepest thanks to the young people in the programs that made this research possible. I can't wait for you all to hear from our program panelists from Compton Youth Build, from Iowa JAG, from Urban Alliance Chicago. And I also want to acknowledge the huge support from Priscilla Dallas in Europe, Baltimore throughout this process, to our external reviewers for their thoughtful feedback, their time and energy, and of course to our generous funders, AT&T, the Carnegie Corporation of New York, and State Farm. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to our panel. I will stop the screen share.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Sean. If we were not socially distanced and in this virtual space, I would ask everyone to give a round of applause for that presentation and just the findings and implications that were shared, which segue perfectly into our discussion with our panelists. And so I would ask all of our panelists to turn their cameras on now. And as our panelists are turning on their cameras, just for our guests, our attendees, we're going to spend some time going through readiness, connectedness, and support from the lens and perspective of the three the three organizations represented here. And then after that, we're going to transition into Q&A. We saw some great questions in the chat. We want to ask everyone if you can drop your questions into the Q&A function on Zoom, that would be highly appreciated. Once again, any questions that come up for you, please drop them in the Q&A section of Zoom. And then when we transition to the larger Q&A, we will go there first to go through those questions and direct them to the panelists. So with that, I believe our panelists are on screen. And before we hop into discussion, just want to let all of our panelists take 2 seconds just to say their name and the organization they represent, and then we'll go into conversation. And Sarah, how about you kick us off?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Sarah Silva, and I represent Compton Youth Build. I'm the co-founder and co-executive director, and I also represent the Youth Build Collaborative of Southern California, which is a group of 23 youth build programs that are in the Southern California area. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Alejandra Guizar, and I am an alumni from Compton Youth Build. And it's a pleasure and a great experience to be here with you all today.
Lori, can you take it for our IJAG team?
You bet. Hi, I'm Lori Phelan. I get to be the president and CEO of Iowa Jobs for America's Graduates. We're an affiliate state to a national organization called Jobs for America's Graduates as well. We have the great opportunity to be statewide and mentor a few other states as they launched into JAG 2.
I'm Danny Fisher. I'm an education specialist with IJ in Dubuque, Iowa. And then
I'm Christine, and I'm a student of IJ.
Hopefully you can hear us through our masks.
Thank you all for being here and being safe as well. And then Jeremy, can you kick it off for the Urban Alliance team?
Sure. Hi, Nathaniel. My name is Jeremy Lee. I'm the National Director of Program Quality at Urban Alliance. We serve primarily high school seniors in an internship program in 5 cities. I'm glad to be here today with all of you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason. I'm an alumni of Urban Alliance, class of 2019.
All right. Thank you all. Okay, so for the discussion, we're going to start with Ready. And so this first question is going to be directed towards Youth Build. And Youth Build, after you kick it off, I also want to encourage the rest of our discussion or our panelists to engage in discussion for anything that resonates for you. But for Youth Build, when we look at Ready, you've shared that readiness is a holistic process reflecting education, skills, identity, and adaptability. How does this show up for your program?
That's a great question, Nathaniel, and I really want to emphasize the point that Sean made in his research that everything is super individualized because no 2 young people are alike, just like none of us are alike. And although we may have some similarities, it really comes down to what that individual needs. So Youth Build is a national model of workforce and leadership development for young people. And we approach everything in the design of our programs around workforce readiness. So even our start times when we're normally gathered together, if you're supposed to be somewhere at 8 a.m., you're actually supposed to be there at 7:45 because in the world of work, you don't show up 4 seconds before you're supposed to clock in. So even the way we've structured our program has really been designed to mirror what the expectations are going to be in the world of work. So appropriate dress, we have uniform requirements because for many of our young people, the first jobs they're going to have uniform requirement. So it's important for you to be ready for the day, not only on time, appropriately dressed, appropriate in your language. We talk a lot about code shifting and how we have our home languages and how we have our professional languages. So all of the expectations of the program are designed to mirror what the realities of the work world might be. But I want to actually hand it over to Alejandra because as an alumni of our program, her impression of what readiness looks like in Youth Build and how Youth Build helped prepare her is much more relevant than anything I could say as a director. So Alejandra, and do realize that Alejandra is at home with some little kids, so there may be some background noise, so just roll with it.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so in terms of Youth Build, what can I say about Compton Youth Build? It's magical. It's completely magical from the moment you enter the door to the moment you get your application, to the moment you get a class and you sit down in your class. It's just completely magical the way that everything wraps around you because you're there and you're expecting to get a high school diploma. You're there expecting to get your education, but that's not the only thing you receive. Like Ms. Silva said, it's kind of ingrained in us as soon as you enter the door that Compton Youth Build is a workforce and leadership development program, but it's not just that. It's building each individual. I'm sorry. It's building each individual because each and every one of us is different, but in every step of the way, each of us build ourselves into a better version of us for the future. And it's the best way to describe it is magical because the teachers are there for you, the directors are there for you, the program assistants are there for you, everyone from the moment you walk into the door, everyone is there for you, everyone has eyes on you, everyone sees the way that you act, the way that you express yourself, and they help build you each moment of the way until the moment you're ready to graduate and you're ready to move out the door. And even then they don't let you go. Even then they follow you and they take care of you and then make sure that you have a job, and if you don't answer they will come and find you. um, that's what I can share about Compton Youth Build.
You know what, Alejandra, I really appreciate everything you shared, and we couldn't have planned this. You are modeling that holistic approach to life. So you do not need to apologize for any background noise. So we appreciate you being here and the comments that you shared. I do want to open it up to anyone else who had like thoughts or reaction to, what Sean mentioned when it comes to readiness and all of these different pieces of identity, adaptability, education, skills, and what does that mean for you? What does that look like for you? Just want to throw that out there.
For me, when I first entered Compton Youth Build, I was there to get a high school diploma. It was pushed back in my life for a long period of time after having my kids and family struggles and the everyday struggles that our youth face in their everyday life. And it was, when I mentioned magical, it's because you don't even realize the growth that happens until the very end. And then you reflect and you're like, that's where I came from. That's what I built. I built myself here. And even when you don't believe in yourself, the people around you believe in you and they give you the strength to continue to move forward and the motivation. One of the things that you hear a lot at Compton Youth Build is, are you ready for the what after? Are you ready for the what after? And that doesn't necessarily mean getting just a job or graduating, going on to college and getting secondary education. It means, are you ready yourself? Have you built yourself for the challenges that come after you walk out that door? And every day you work on getting yourself ready through your classes, through the motivation that your teachers give you, the motivation that the staff gives you. And that's in everything included. Once you walk into the door, you have to be there 15 minutes early before class starts. You sit in class and there's a set of expectations that you need to meet. If you don't meet them because it's challenging, the teachers are okay with that and they help you. If you don't meet them because you're just kind of blowing it off, they will catch you. They will tell you, you need to sit down and we need to talk about it. And when you realize as time goes on, you're like, I've walked so far from when I first started. They build you by setting mock interviews, by bringing speakers from the community and from outside, showing you the options and the possibilities that are out there, things that you've never seen before, things that you didn't know were out there in the world. And they start picturing and painting this picture for you, not just like you see on the TV, but painting this picture, making sure that you believe in that picture and making sure that you keep working towards that picture.
You shared something that if folks are tweeting, like tweet this, I have walked so far from where I started. When you talk about magical and the way you gave that description, I just thought that was brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. And when you touched on like the teachers and all these other folks in your life that are watching you and being there, that, you know, really is a beautiful segue to when we think about connectedness. And I want to toss this one to IJAG. You know, we heard Alejandra's comments, and we also heard Sean talk about when the research explored connectedness, how young people believe connections and even social capital are essential for navigating their career journey. But on the flip side, sometimes struggle building upon existing relationships to bridge to new opportunities. And so I do want to turn to the IJAG team just to get your thoughts around connectedness, what we heard from Alejandra, what we heard from the research. So IJAG.
Thank you, Nathaniel. And that was so great, Alejandra. I just got a standing ovation from Iowa. Of course, we have connectedness, and I love that we were selected for this piece. And I have to make sure that I recognize Justine, who's our student.
Lori, I think you went on mute, Lori, if you can hear us.
Carly, can you fix Lori's audio?
Okay, Lori, we're working on your audio, if you can hear us. Nope.
Carly, are you there? Can you go help her?
All right. Wait. So our team is gonna reach out to Lori via the chat to try to get her attention. Oh, okay. Lori, can you hear us? Okay, we're having some trouble hearing you.
How about now?
There we go. We're back on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Connected. There we go.
We're in the middle of Iowa, connected. So I wanted to, I don't know if you heard me give a shout out to my team. Justine and Danny and Dubuque. I'm going to keep watching my computer here because I can see it's clicking itself off. So I'm going to just do that. So sorry about if it does that.
Well, we're rocking with you. Go for it.
Okay, so very good. So Danny and Justine, my team, thank you for being on with me. IJAG is really a program that is designed to focus on connection. First connection is mostly with the student and themselves, who they are and what they want to be for the future. And then the connections to their wider community. Maybe that's an employer. Maybe that's somebody that can provide some supports to them. And then the next connection really is to that wider world, their career future. And our goal is to help them realize their hopes and dreams so that they can help with the diversity and inclusion that's needed to be out there for all of us. So when we think about connections in IJAG, it's the core of what we do. It's our bread and butter, but it all starts with young people saying, I want to see my future. I want to be on a different pathway. So rather than me, instead of me doing this, what I'd like to do is kick it over to Justine and let her tell her story about connectedness.
Awesome.
So basically before IJAG, like I had no clue how to get involved in the community. I was like super shy to get involved with the community, but as IJAG has like evolved me as a person, they like helped me know who to talk to in my community and know who I can reach out to and who are good resources to reach out to.
Justine, if I was throwing it out there for you, I'd suggest, can you talk a little bit about the connectedness you have with your JAG program and the Career Association and your JAG specialists?
Yeah, so I've been a part of IJAG since 7th grade, so 5 years now. Of those 5 years, I've been on the Career Association for 3 of them. And yeah, again, it's just helped me like really branch out and talk to people and like, know what I want to do with my future and like with my life.
Justine.
The Career Association, I don't know if this panel knows, but the Career Association is IJAG's own like student council. So for students who maybe aren't ready to run for student government, we have a huge high school here with 2,000 students. They have an opportunity within our small class to be in a leadership position. So from that leadership position on a smaller scale, they maybe will partner with student government, or it builds their leadership capacity on a smaller level so they can go out and use it on a bigger scale. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Danny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I also just want to see if any of our other young people wanted to share anything on that connected piece before we go to support it. Okay.
I want to share a little bit, if that's okay.
Go for it.
I'm not a young person anymore, but I think too, in hearing from Youth Build, that after they graduate connection is something that IJAG does too, and it's huge. It is huge for a student in college to be able to reach back to someone they were comfortable with in high school and say, I need help. It's huge for someone that graduated not knowing to be able to come back and say, I should have listened to you. Can you help me now? So that's something too that we do at IJAG is remain connected even after graduation. It's huge, I think.
Yeah. And also when we think about connection, another word for it, and I really want to credit our team at Center for Promise, also thinking about it as networking, right? So, how are you developing your network? How are you expanding your network? And Justine, you touched on that piece when you were sharing a little bit about your story. And before we move on, I do want to ask you a question directly. When you think about the network that you are developing and have developed through your time with IJAG, how do you feel? How does that network, those connections, or even that community make you feel when you're thinking about your employment journey and the road ahead?
It definitely makes me more comfortable with like knowing how to deal with in a professional atmosphere. One big thing is we do have like a John Deere mentor. His name is Rob. He comes into our school and he's a big help with knowing how to talk to people, like what to wear at an appropriate interview, what to say in an interview. And it's just been like a huge help having that network of people.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Justine. And you know what? I want to make sure we give some time to our folks from Urban Alliance. And really, Urban Alliance, what I want to throw your way, and this is I think a build upon what Alejandra and even Justine shared. They spoke a lot about just how there are these individuals in their lives. Alejandra talked about how those folks are always following up. So my question to the Urban Alliance folks is, young people mention that work and life roles are not siloed from one another, and a whole person approach is essential for support. How does this show up in your program?
Thanks, Nathaniel. I think that, looking at a young person holistically is so important. It shows up in, everything that we do at Urban Alliance, and support is really weaved through all the three things that Sean and your research has found through readiness, connected, and support. That like anything that you do, you learn, you need support, right? Whether it's that math equation in that math class, or how to write a thesis paper, or how to navigate the world of work, it all takes someone else to provide support, training, guidance, and kind of like lay down the rules of the road. And so that's why at Urban Alliance, every student who's in our high school program is assigned to a program coordinator on a caseload of no more than 35 students. I was in the education world and worked in the school system. And so I know that high school teachers sometimes have a caseload you're teaching English or math, you can have up to 150, 200 students, in your class. And so it's really important that, we get that individualized attention to the young people, especially as they're navigating sometimes their first work experience. But I would love to turn it over to Jason. He is a 2019 graduate of our program, so he can speak more recently about the support that he received through Urban Alliance. So Jason?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jason. So Urban Alliance for me, I think, has helped me in very crucial moments in my life. I feel like, you can't have support without connections. And Urban Alliance has had some amazing connections, and they have introduced me to people that have really shaped my life for the better. I think that the most important part and the aspect of the internship that they offer is the ability to, have a mentor and just have, well, to backtrack a little, Urban Alliance, it places you in an internship. And this is usually in companies, that are big, small, and who are doing things in all sorts of areas around Chicago. So you get to really meet people that are from different areas and people who do different things for a living. And so for me, I was placed at a corporate office. So it was something that was very scary for me. The support that Urban Alliance has is the 6-week training. And basically they sit down with you and they really break it down for you and show you all the different things that is needed to work in a corporate environment. So I think, sorry, everyone.
You're doing great.
I haven't spoken in a minute, but so yeah.
Also in that position, so you're good. You're in good company.
Awesome, but yeah. So Urban Alliance, the support that I've received is just amazing. People have helped me with my college planning, support in just personal endeavors. Finding myself, finding the things that are important to me, and just being able to just work with really amazing people who have different experiences and are able to guide me in my path to becoming an adult, especially now with just work and school and a lot of big things are coming for sure. And being first generation, it's really hard to really imagine what I would be doing without people that have done it all. Some people that I've met through Urban Alliance.
Yeah,
definitely, Jason. And I'll just add that like the approach that our staff, and I'm sure all the other organizations on this take, is that we approach the students from a strengths-based approach. We don't look at deficits. We're looking at every student has talent and are great. And so we are strengths-based and non-judgmental. And so we're a safe place for students to come to us, to talk to us about, their hopes and dreams. And that's the support that we give. And so I know high schools like, can be large, up to 2,000, 3,000 students, and you can get lost in that shuffle. And so at Urban Alliance and in our programs that we all represent, we really, tailor it towards that student. And a philosophy that we really follow is that, Michelle Obama put it best when she says, when you walk through that door, that open door of opportunity, you don't slam that shut behind you. You hold it open. And that's what we do at Urban Alliance. And that's what Jason and Justine and Alejandra are all doing. They're holding that door of opportunity open for the next person behind them. And that's what's so great about our programs here.
Yeah. And I have one more question for Jason before we transition to our Q&A. We have some amazing questions that our audience members have dropped into the Q&A function, and we're going to get to those in a minute. But Jason, so you had mentioned, and as we think about this idea of support, how you went to a program for an internship and jobs training and all of that jazz, but you talked about how the program also was helping with like college and some of these other things in your life. What was it like for you to go into a relationship thinking that, all right, we're going to be focused on one thing, but you have folks in your life that are now showing up in other areas that are important to you outside of work. So what's that like when you have those individuals show up outside of that initial just job area? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. So, being in high school, really, it's always about, finding the right people. And with Urban Alliance, I was just going in thinking, I'm going to do this job stuff. easy peasy. But people, just being there with adults and spending time together, you grow and you're like, hey, what are your interests? What do you like to do and stuff like that. So for me, just being able to work with people who are just very nice in general and people who are very approachable, and then them being able to offer just their time to listen to what you want to do and what you have to say. So yeah, I talked with people who well, to me the hardest part was being a college student, applying and being able to learn the tips and tricks, I guess, that people find out and stuff. But yeah, the support, I just feel like a lot of the people that I've met, I still talk to. I tell them about the things I'm accomplishing, things that I'm doing. So it's just really, really cool to have met people that care about you and support you.
Awesome. Jason, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I want to invite Sean to come back on screen because we're going to go into the Q&A section, and we have some amazing questions, and I'm going to throw one out to the group. Anyone can address this one or respond to this one. So one question is, can anyone suggest ways to help youth who are facing financial stressors and challenges during COVID-19?
Well, I'd throw out, Nathaniel, if I don't get cut off by my own computer, that this partnership that Jason and Justine and Alejandro talked about in their communities are perfect ways to be able to do that. They know of some resources. There's often scholarships. Right now under COVID-19, many United Ways are putting emergency funding out there. So again, working through the organization that they're a part of already, but then also getting into that community that they're doing so well, like today, and reaching out and asking some of those critical questions have resulted in that kind of support that's needed during this time.
Awesome.
I know a couple of things that Compton Youth Build has been doing to support our young people in the community, is that we have a members only Compton Youth Build Facebook page, which is where we post, all of the staff are on it, and all of our students who have been part of Compton Youth Build are also on it. And it's an open resource where anyone that finds anything that can help one another gets posted on there, so everyone can see it. I know also as part of our program, we did partner up with an organization where they bring food for our students every Tuesday. So aside from the free lunch that they receive, we have this organization bring eggs, milk, bread, the basic necessities to our program. And our staff helps set up for students to take home. Our students are very diverse, because we have underage and we have overage students, and some of our students are parents. So they're juggling a job, they're juggling family, and they're juggling school at the same time. So we help as much as we can by providing as many resources as we have available for them.
Thank you both so much. And then for our guests, I also want to name one thing. We're an alliance, folks. So if you have any suggestions or thoughts, please include those in the chat so that we can all learn from one another. We are a larger community. And so I have another question to throw out, trying to get through as many of these because there's some great ones in here. The next question, and anyone can respond to this, given the importance of follow-up, how can you do this effectively? This is a very expensive process, and not every program has the resources to do follow-up. And I believe this is in reference to following up with young people and being that level of support. So anyone want to take that question?
So if the other presenters are okay, I'll go ahead and take that question, because definitely after we graduated our first class, which was in 2013, it was a great question. We didn't have built into our funding, how are we gonna follow up? But we certainly knew that that was the most critical thing that we do at our program. So we hired our first program assistant, who was an alumni from our program. We now have 3. They started off as Candy started off as, she's still with us, started off as a part-time employee, making minimum wage. And because she was a recent alumni, she knew everybody that she was reaching out to try to get follow-up data on. So it was easy for her to get in touch with them because it wasn't a staff member calling, like hassling me, like, what am I doing? And why do you want this information? It was somebody that they had been in the program with. And so as our program has grown, we're now up to almost 1,000 people who have completed our program. Now we have 3 program assistants. Again, it's a great first job opportunity for our alumni who are in college part-time and working for us part-time. And they're super connected to the alumni they're reaching out to. So it's been a pretty inexpensive way for us to do follow-up. And we follow up for a minimum of 5 years. But honestly, we're still following every person who's ever left our program. So we just, stalking everyone, but that's how we've been able to do it in a fairly inexpensive way. And Alejandra is one of the stalkers who gets follow-up data.
I think this is the only space where we can use that term stalker, and it's okay. Thank
I
you.
know it's not based on research methodology, but because they're already on social media with them, so they see them on Snapchat or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So it's friendly, non-threatening stalking.
Awesome. Anyone else before we go to the next question?
I can add on. So Urban Alliance, the really neat thing with the program is we have alumni services. So basically that is just a program with alumni. And usually what happens is once you graduate, you make your profile, you set, what college I'm going to, what I'm going to do. And so part of that is, your post-high school plan. And then from there, we usually, what the alumni board does is, or alumni services does is send, weekly, sometimes weekly newsletters on like what's going on with alumni. So just simple stuff like, sending emails, catching up, letting people know what Urban Alliance is up to. And sometimes, we offer, whether, it be workshops in person. It used to be in-person workshops, but now it's all through Zoom. So it's all, whether it be anything that alumni are currently facing, any issue that they have. So mostly that would be like, accounting stuff, like, their taxes. Tax is a big thing that people mostly go to, the taxes workshops with, mental well-being. Usually, we do, cute stuff like that. And it's just really basically keeping that connection alive with the alumni and just, sending, messages that we're there.
Jason, that's a perfect segue to another question that came up. And this question is for all of the young people on the panel. And so the question is, for the alumni on the panel, how do you feel, or what do you feel is the best way to do outreach to youth about the support programs offer them?
Awesome. Yeah. So I didn't want to mention, but I'm also part of the alumni board. So it's like, I know a little bit more about the alumni program, but basically, I think the easiest way and the best way is just through email, really. And then, if people who are, who think they need it, they'll reach out and they'll let you know, hey, I'm currently facing with this, or, this really would be a cool idea. Like lately, like last month, I think we did the, like a little like game show type thing where the alumni came. We did like, it's called the game called, it's a game called Trap Wars, and it's like a meme game, and we did that for a couple hours. And so it's just finding things that, can keep people, entertained for a bit, because, people are busy, and alumni certainly are, don't got that much time to, be doing things. So it's just finding that common ground and just finding something, fun to do.
Justine or Alejandra, any suggestions around ways to engage or better engage young people in programs once they complete those programs?
Well, I'm not an alumni yet. I'm still a junior in high school, but definitely building a relationship while in high school is like a good way for teachers to still want to engage the students. Because like if I didn't have a good relationship with Danny, I'd be like, why is she still talking to me? So like definitely building them relationships is like a good thing.
Awesome.
I agree with Justine. I think the impact that Youthville leaves on the people that walk into those doors is so great that alumni come back on their own. And that's how we reach out to the rest of them, because they talk to other folks, and those folks talk to other folks, and it just kind of goes down the chain. But when we have events or for our current members, or when there's like bigger events outside of Compton Youth Build, we always reach out to everyone and invite them, and they always come out on their own because they know what Youth Build has done for them, and Youth Build has left an imprint in them so big that they want to make sure that they voice that out to everyone else that's out there as well.
Thanks, Alejandra. So this next question, I want to ask Sean to maybe take a stab at it. I think this might be in your wheelhouse. The question is, I wonder, how do the youth of today, 14 to 24, differ from the youth of yesterday in terms of needs? How did we, so what did we do with youth of yesterday? What did we learn in working with Gen X and Y? Any insights or thoughts?
Yeah, it's a big question, and it's something that I think if you look into the research literatures, if you look into the discourse within the practice and policy spaces, is something that continues to come up quite a bit. And I think one of the ways that that some of those generational differences have begun to be talked about is actually through a lens of the differences within the employment landscape and the degree to which the modern employment landscape offers the same sorts of relatively straightforward, more predictable pathways from school to work than it did, generations past. And one of the things that gets talked about as we, our economy continues to transition daily more and more toward, a knowledge-based information economy, is a question of how young people themselves are in a lot of ways much more in the driver's seat of creating their own career path, right? And so researchers talk about this in terms of the sort of boundaryless or protein career, and the idea that young people more than ever are confronted with a need to create their own space and create their own path through school into the workforce. And that can be really difficult. And that adds, I think, layers to what it means to be ready in today's world of work. And so, you see that in some of the ways that readiness is talked about by the young people in the report, and you see that in the ways that some of the language within the research landscape has transitioned. That skills are really important, and we see that showing up a lot in the practice and policy landscapes. But what we hear from young people and what we hear emerging from the scholarship is that developing a clear or deeper sense of identity and who someone is, that serves as a really important sort of guide star to chart somebody's path through the world of work. And then that sense of adaptability is something that helps young people to cope with changes and challenges along the way. And so, Mark Savickas is a scholar from the career development literatures that writes extensively on, the concept of identity and adaptability. So he's certainly someone to take a look at. But I think when I think about some of those generational differences, I really think about what are the differences in the landscape that change, what it means to create a career, what it means to become ready. And certainly others have written more about, trying to parse out some of the differences between, at more of an individual or person level about, differences in attitudes toward work and differences in orientations toward work and careers. But I'll pause there for now. I wonder if others on the panel have, thoughts about some of the things they see in their direct work, as you're engaging, young people with adults and thinking about questions around work.
I'd throw out one, and that is the difference seems to be, I've been doing this for 22 years, so the difference for me seems to be that employers are more open to hearing what the students have to say because they've built relationship with them and they trust each other. And I think our students can be more open. And what employers are starting to see is they are bringing a wealth of diversity of thinking, of backgrounds, of futuristic ideas to the table. Before they might not have taken advantage of those. So before my computer clicks me off, I just think employers are changing a lot as our young people are entering the workforce and being vocal.
Thank you so much, Lori. And I have one last question that we'll take from the Q&A section before we wrap up our time together. And I think this question anyone can respond to because it's a tension that's faced in the youth supporting space by a lot of direct service providers. And the question is, what do you think are the best ways to engage youth to encourage them to participate in programs that provide internships and career development activities?
Recruitment is one of my favorite parts of my job. So I will say that like boots on the ground and standing in front of students is really the best way. I know we're in a pandemic and so schools might be closed right now, but like really going into classrooms or going into the schools, bringing alumni like Jason, like Justine, like Alejandra with you to talk about these programs, I think are really helpful. Also, it doesn't hurt to have a nice video and some multimedia to share of what the students will be doing. And it's also, for me, it's an easy sell because I can tell students they get to leave school after 5th period and they get to earn up to $8,000 their senior year. And so I have students, knocking down my door. But I find that the old school recruitment techniques of going into classrooms, talking with students and building those relationships, and also having a champion within those school buildings or however you're recruiting, whether it's a counselor or an assistant principal, to having that champion for you to help be your cheerleader in the school is helpful as well.
Well, I'll just add, it's no wonder, Jeremy, that you love recruitment because you got like all these incentives. So for us, recruitment is really challenging, even though there's no shortage of young people in LA County who need our services. There are over 220,000 young people in LA County between the ages of 16 and 24 who have dropped out or been pushed out of traditional education. So for Youth Build, we can't go into the schools to recruit because that would be essentially encouraging young people in the traditional school system to leave the traditional school system and come to us. But we do a lot of work with counselors in traditional schools so that when they identify a young person who is not having success in the traditional school system, they can recommend that Youth Build might be a viable option for them. I do agree that getting your alumni to recruit is hands down the most effective because again, as an adult, I can say anything like my program's amazing, you should all come. But when Alejandra or other alumni speak, they're able to connect with young people on a level that I can't. And I think sometimes it's getting them in the door and then convincing them that they should never want to leave because it's the most amazing place ever. But getting them in the door can be challenging because we ask a lot. One of the questions on the chat or on the Q&A was about how do we raise the bar? And raising the bar is definitely a Youth Build concept. Young people will, in my experience, rise to whatever the expectations you have for them. If you expect them to fail, they will 100% fail. And if you expect them to succeed with all the love and support that you can offer them, they're much more likely to believe that they can succeed. So it's just getting them in the door that can be the tricky part.
And with that, Sarah, I want to thank you for your comments, and I want to thank our entire panel. The stories, the insights that you all provided have really been a beautiful addition to the research findings and implications that have been shared during this discussion. As we come to a close, I want to thank our attendees for carving out time in a world with so many virtual conversations that you decided to be a part of this one. We hope this conversation offered you a few things. First, research that aligns with the efforts that your organization is carrying out, or if you're an employer, that there is something on this conversation that is causing you to reimagine or rethink practices within your company. And for the young people who were a part of this conversation, thank you. You validate and you make real all the things us old people are doing. I can't believe I'm old now, but it's a reality. But to Alejandra, Jason, and Justine, the insights that you all shared are priceless and we appreciate you. We also want to thank the organizations that partnered with us in this research. So Prescolas, IJAG, Urban Alliance, Youth Build, and Year Up. We're only able to do this work because of our partners, and that's just a fraction of our partners that are committed to the YES Project. And as we bring the conversation to a close, I want to go back to something that Alejandra shared that touched me. I have walked so far from where I started. For the work that we all are doing, it can be hard sometimes. When we see what the unemployment rates are for young people, when we look at the way in which the world is going and how do we remain adaptable and how are we pivoting with everything that's thrown our way, when we stop, into Alejandra's spirit and sentiment, look back at how far we've walked, we have made some strides and will continue to make strides. But we're able to make those strides when we come together as a collective. And that's the honor that we have here at America's Promise, to be able to be in partnership with each and every one of you. So with that, thank you for your time. Please, please, please share the report with your network and go to social and amplify everything that you've taken away from our time together. With that, thank you to everyone that joined. Thank you to our panelists, and special thanks to our sponsors and funders, State Farm, AT&T, and Carnegie. You all really help advance this work, not just for America's Promise Alliance, but everyone a part of the Alliance. Have a great afternoon, everyone.